The sky above the ruined colony was gray and silent. Smoke rose from broken buildings and the wind carried the smell of ash. Cole walked carefully over the cracked ground, his boots crunching on glass and debris. He held a small scanner in his hand, searching for anything useful: tools, batteries, food. The war had ended months ago, but the land still looked like it had died yesterday. Cole was a scavenger. He didn't work for anyone. He survived by collecting what others had left behind. Sometimes he found small treasures, sometimes just broken memories. Today felt different. He heard something, a soft, weak sound. Not the wind, not the fire. A sound like crying. Cole stopped. His ears were sharp after so many lonely walks. He listened again. Yes, definitely crying. Very faint. It was coming from under a fallen wall nearby. He moved quickly, dropping his pack and pulling off pieces of metal and stone. It was hard work, but he had strong arms and a strong will. After a few minutes, he uncovered a narrow space under the collapsed structure. Inside, he saw a figure. It was a woman, an alien woman. Her skin was a pale bluish purple and her face was thin from hunger. She had small elf-like ears and wide eyes full of fear. Behind her, clinging to her torn dress, was a tiny child with the same color skin. The child looked no older than 4 years, silent and scared. Cole's heart tightened. He had seen suffering before, but this was different. The woman raised a shaking hand, holding something small and dry. A food cube, one of the cheap survival rations used during the war. It was cracked, old, and barely enough for a mouthful. She pushed it toward Cole. "For you," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "It is all I have." Cole froze. A starving alien mother, with nothing left, was offering him her last bite. He didn't move for a moment. His throat tightened and a strange feeling stirred in his chest. Not pity, not guilt, something stronger. Something like pain and respect mixed together. "No," he said quietly, shaking his head. "Keep it." He stepped back and looked around. Then, without another word, he turned and ran. Kari, the alien mother, blinked in confusion. She thought the human would take the food, maybe harm her or her child. That was what she had been told. That humans only thought of themselves. That they were dangerous. But he had left. She held her child close, her body shaking from weakness. Her people had been peaceful once. Farmers, artists, singers. Then the war came. Cities burned. Her home was lost. She had walked for days with her child, hiding from raiders, running from machines, until she had nothing left. No food, no water, just that one cube. And now she had given it away. Maybe this was the end. But before her thoughts could fall into darkness, she heard footsteps again. Cole returned, carrying his pack. He knelt beside the hole and opened it. "Here," he said, pulling out sealed ration packs and water bottles. "You and your kid need these more than I do." Kari stared at him, too weak to speak. He opened one of the packs and handed a soft bar to the child. The little one took it slowly, sniffed. It then began to eat, small bites, fast but careful. The sight made tears fall from Kari's eyes. Cole gave her a water bottle and waited as she drank. Her hands shook, but she drank like it was her first drop in days. "Why?" she whispered after a while. "Why would a human help us?" Cole didn't answer right away. He looked around at the ruined city, then back at her. "Because someone should have helped before," he said quietly. He didn't explain what he meant. He didn't tell her about the girl he once saw die during a supply run, or the promise he made to himself that day. He didn't talk about his guilt, his anger at the war, or his loneliness. He just unpacked a small heater, turned it on, and placed it near them. Kari stared at the warm light. It was the first warmth she had felt in days. "What's your name?" Cole asked softly. She hesitated. "Kari." He nodded. "I'm Cole." Kari looked at him again. His face was rough, with a small scar across his brow, and his clothes were dusty and torn, but his eyes were calm, not cruel. "Your child?" Cole asked, pointing gently. Kari nodded. "Luma." Cole gave the child another snack bar. Luma smiled for the first time. As the sun sank behind the ruined towers, Cole set up a small shelter using metal sheets and plastic wrap. It wasn't perfect, but it kept the cold wind out. He didn't ask Kari to trust him. He just worked quietly, staying close enough to help, but far enough to not frighten her. He watched her protect her child with every breath, even when she had nothing left to give. He remembered something his mother once told him. The strongest people are the ones who protect others even when they're broken inside. Now he saw it in Kari. That night, as the stars blinked coldly above the broken world, a human and an alien mother shared silence, warmth, and the smallest hope. And it all started with one final bite. The sun rose slowly over the broken buildings. The light touched the burned streets and twisted metal like it was trying to make the place beautiful again. But the scars of war were too deep. Inside the small shelter, Cole sat by the heater, carefully, checking his scanner. The signal was weak, no major movement nearby. That was a good sign. It meant no raiders, no patrols, no drones. Kari sat quietly across from him. Her child Luma was asleep in her lap. The girl had eaten well last night and was now wrapped in a warm emergency blanket. Her breathing was soft and peaceful. Kari's eyes stayed on Cole. She still didn't fully understand him. He had given them food, water, and even heat. He could have taken everything. He could have walked away, but he didn't. He stayed. And that confused her. She had heard so many things about humans. Cruel, greedy, full of pride. That's what her people used to say. But this one was nothing like that. Cole finally looked up from his scanner. "We should move soon," he said. "This area isn't safe for long." Kari nodded slowly. Her body still felt weak, but she could stand. "Where are you going?" she asked. Cole shrugged. "I don't really have a place. I just move where the danger isn't. But I know of a human relief zone about 30 kilometers from here. They've got food, medicine, and shelter. I was headed that way." Kari looked down at her child, then back at him. Would they let us in?" Cole didn't answer right away. He could see the worry in her eyes, and he understood. Many human zones were not friendly to aliens after the war. Some had strict rules, others had worse. But Cole had a plan. "They'll let you in," he said firmly. "I'll make sure of it." Kari didn't argue. She just nodded and gently rocked Luma in her arms. They packed up and stepped out into the cold morning air. The streets were quiet. No voices, no machines, just the sound of wind moving through the ruins. Cole led the way, his rifle slung on his back and his scanner in hand. He didn't speak much, but he always checked behind to make sure Kari and the child were close. He walked slow enough for them to keep up. They moved through shattered alleys, crossed fallen bridges, and climbed over broken vehicles. It was not an easy path. Sometimes Kari stumbled. Sometimes Luma cried. But Cole always stopped and helped, without a single complaint. After a few hours, they stopped near an old checkpoint for rest. Cole passed out protein bars and water. As they sat under the shade of a broken sign, Kari finally asked, "Why are you doing this?" Cole looked at her. "You could have left us," she said softly. "You didn't have to come back. You didn't have to share your supplies. You don't even know us." Cole sighed and leaned against the wall. "There was a girl once," he said. "During the war. She was about Luma's age. I found her hiding in a destroyed house. She was alone, starving. I tried to help her, but I was too late." Kari listened quietly. "I promised myself that if I ever got another chance, I wouldn't fail," he added. "I couldn't save her, but maybe I can save you." Kari's voice trembled. "She must have meant a lot to you." Cole gave a small nod. "She reminded me of my little sister. I haven't seen my family in years." Kari looked down. Her hands held Luma close. She understood now. This wasn't just kindness, it was something deeper, something born from pain. "You're not like the stories," she said after a while. "What stories?" "The ones we were told. That humans take, destroy, conquer. That they care only for power." Cole smiled faintly. "We've made mistakes, big ones, but not all of us are the same." Kari nodded. "And not all of us are perfect either." The wind picked up again, but this time it didn't feel so cold. Suddenly, Cole's scanner beeped. His eyes narrowed. "Movement. South of here." Kari tensed. "Raiders? Maybe. Or patrols. Either way, we need to move. Now." They quickly packed their things and started moving again. Cole took a different path, one that led them through narrow alleys and hidden tunnels. He was careful, always checking corners and listening for danger. They didn't speak much now. The fear had returned. After another hour, they reached an open field filled with burnt trees. On the other side was a collapsed building that Cole said they could rest in before nightfall. As they crossed the field, a sharp sound cracked through the air. Gunfire. Cole shouted, "Get down!" Kari dropped to the ground, shielding Luma with her body. Cole pulled his rifle and scanned the horizon. Shadows moved among the trees. Not many, but enough to be trouble. "They found us," he muttered. Kari was breathing hard. "What do we do?" "I'll draw them away," Cole said. "You stay low. If I don't come back—" "No," she interrupted. "You saved us. I won't let you throw your life away." Cole looked at her, surprised. The fear in her eyes had changed. It was no longer fear for herself, but for him. "We'll get through this together," she added. He nodded slowly. "All right, but stay behind me." He led them carefully, using the burned trees for cover. He fired warning shots to keep the attackers back, but they kept coming. Cole set small traps with grenades he had saved, using every trick he knew. By the time they reached the collapsed building, the attackers had given up. The traps had worked. The noise was gone. Inside the broken shelter, Kari collapsed to the ground, holding Luma tightly. Cole sat beside them, breathing heavily. Kari looked at him with wide eyes. "You could have died." "So could you," he replied, half smiling. Kari slowly reached out and touched his hand. "You're not like the others," she whispered. Cole looked at her hand resting on his and said softly, "Neither are you." Outside, the stars began to rise over the silent world, and for the first time since the war, hope traveled with them. The night was quiet, but Cole didn't sleep. He sat near the edge of the broken building, watching the dark woods. The stars above were cold and distant. His rifle rested across his lap. Every sound, every rustle in the trees made him alert. Kari and Luma were curled up behind him, wrapped in blankets. The child's head rested on her mother's chest. Both were finally asleep after the attack earlier that day. Their small bodies looked peaceful, but Cole knew that peace could break at any moment. He leaned his head back and sighed. He had survived many dangers before: hostile soldiers, collapsing cities, hunger, and loneliness. But this time felt heavier, not because of the risk, but because someone was counting on him. In the morning, Kari woke first. She moved slowly, careful not to disturb her daughter. She saw Cole sitting outside, eyes open but tired. "You didn't sleep," she said softly. "Didn't need to," Cole replied, still watching the tree line. Kari sat beside him. For a while they said nothing. Then she asked, "Why do you protect us so much? We're not your people." Cole looked at her. "Your people, that's enough." Kari's eyes softened. She wasn't used to such simple kindness. She came from a world where every action had a price. But Cole wasn't asking for anything. They ate a small breakfast, shared from Cole's supplies. The food was dry and tasteless, but it gave them strength. Luma woke and smiled when she saw Cole. She ran to him and hugged his leg. Cole froze for a second, surprised. Then he placed his hand gently on her back. That small touch said more than words. "Time to move," he said. "We're getting close to the human zone. Maybe 2 more days if we're careful." They packed quickly and headed out. The road ahead was rough. The land was scarred with craters and burned trees. The air still carried the smell of old fire. Cole led them through narrow paths and hidden trails. He avoided open roads. He knew there could be bandits, rogue machines, or worse. By midday, they reached the remains of an old supply outpost. The building was broken but still strong enough to give shelter. Cole stepped inside first, checking every corner. Once it was safe, he waved Kari and Luma in. They rested for a while. Kari boiled some clean water Cole had filtered, and he studied a map. "We'll pass through an old transit tunnel tomorrow," he said. "It's dangerous, but it'll save us time." Kari looked uneasy. "Tunnels are dark. We could be trapped." "I know," he nodded. "But the surface paths are worse. Too open. Too many eyes." Kari trusted his judgment. She didn't know how to survive in this ruined world. But Cole did, and he had never led them wrong. That night, they shared a quiet moment by a small fire. Luma sat between them, drawing shapes in the dirt with a stick. Cole handed her a small light pen he had saved. The child's face lit up with wonder. She began to draw glowing stars in the air. Kari watched, her heart full and heavy at the same time. "She hasn't smiled like that in weeks," she said. "She's strong," Cole replied. "Just like her mother." Kari looked at him. "I don't feel strong. You're still standing. That's enough." The next morning, they entered the tunnel. It was dark and smelled of rust. The walls were lined with broken lights and wires. Cole turned on a small lamp and held it in front of them. They walked slowly. Every step echoed. Suddenly a loud clang echoed ahead. Cole raised his hand. "Stop." They froze. Another sound. Metal scraping. Then whispers. Not human voices. Cole pulled out his rifle. "They're not alone," he whispered. A moment later, 3 shadows stepped into the light. Thin bodies, armored suits, and glowing red eyes. "Raiders. Drop your weapon, human," one of them said. "And hand over the alien." Cole didn't move. His eyes flicked to Kari and Luma. "They're with me," he said firmly. The raider laughed. "We don't care. Aliens are worth credits. And humans like you don't scare us." "I won't let you take them." Another laugh. "Then die with them." The raiders moved fast, but Cole was faster. He fired 2 quick shots, dropping the first one. The other 2 scattered. "Run!" he shouted. Kari grabbed Luma and ran back the way they came. Cole followed while covering them, firing when needed. The tunnel shook from blasts. One raider fired a pulse weapon that struck the wall. Behind Cole, he stumbled but kept going. They reached the exit just in time. Cole dropped a charge behind them. As they climbed out into daylight, the tunnel exploded with a dull boom, sending dust and smoke into the air. Cole fell to his knees, breathing hard. His arm was bleeding, grazed by a shot. Kari rushed to his side and tore a piece of cloth to wrap it. "You're hurt," she said, voice shaking. "I've had worse," he replied with a tired grin. Luma hugged his neck. "You saved us again," Kari whispered. "I said I would." They rested under a broken sky, sitting on dry grass beside an old tree. Kari looked at Cole, her voice soft but firm. "I don't know what will happen when we reach your people, but no matter what, thank you." Cole looked at her, then at Luma, who was now asleep in his lap. He spoke quietly. "We're not there yet, but we're close. Just hold on a little longer." Kari nodded, and in that moment she no longer saw him as a human stranger. She saw him as the reason she and her child were still alive. The sun was low on the horizon, painting the sky with orange and pink. The cold wind whispered through the cracked trees as Cole, Kayari, and little Luma moved slowly across a wide valley. The relief zone was just beyond the hills, and they could almost see the glow of distant lights. Kari's body ached, but she forced herself to keep walking. The days of running and hiding had left her weak, but Cole's presence gave her strength. He was careful to slow down when she needed rest and never complained about the pace. Luma held tightly to her mother's hand, but sometimes she looked up at Cole with curious eyes, as if she was learning who this man was. Cole smiled softly at her when their eyes met. That evening, they found an old shelter near a shallow river. Cole made a small fire and began cleaning his wound from the gunshot. Scrape. Kari sat nearby, watching him work with a steady hand. "You don't seem scared anymore," Cole said quietly. Kari looked away. "I was scared when we met. You could have been like the others, like the war soldiers, but you saved us." Cole nodded. "I was scared too once, a long time ago." She waited for him to continue. "There was a mission," he said. "A place where children had no food, no medicine. I tried to help, but I failed. A little girl died in my arms. It changed me. I promised I wouldn't fail anyone again." Kari's eyes softened. "You carry a heavy pain." "Pain makes us human," Cole said with a small smile. "But it also makes us strong." For the first time since they met, Kari felt a connection that went beyond fear or need. She was beginning to trust this human, to see him as more than a stranger. She told him stories of her home planet, a place of green fields, tall trees, and gentle rivers. A world destroyed by war and greed. She spoke of her family, of laughter and music long gone. Cole listened quietly, his face serious but kind. When Kari's voice broke with sadness, Cole reached out and placed his hand over hers. "We will find peace again," he said firmly. Kari smiled faintly. "Maybe, if humans like you still exist." The fire crackled and Luma, now sleepy, curled in Kari's lap. Cole watched them and felt a strange warmth. He wasn't alone anymore. Suddenly Kari stood. "We must keep moving. The relief zone won't wait forever," Cole agreed. They packed quickly and began their final journey. The road was rough but quiet. As they walked, Cole noticed strange footprints, large and heavy. Not human. Kari's eyes narrowed. "Bounty hunters." "They're close," Cole said, gripping his rifle. "We must hurry." The three moved faster, their footsteps light, on dry grass. Before long, a vehicle appeared, a rusted, armored truck kicking up dust as it approached. Two figures leaned out, weapons ready. Cole stepped in front of Kari and Luma, raising his rifle. "Stop!" he shouted. The vehicle slowed. One of the hunters, a tall man with cold eyes, spoke through a speaker. "Hand over the alien woman and child," he demanded. "They're worth a good price." Cole's jaw tightened. "I won't let you take them." The hunter laughed. "You're just one man. Step aside or we'll take them by force." Kari's heart pounded. Luma clung to her tightly, trembling. Cole raised his weapon. "Try me." Suddenly the truck doors opened and the hunters stepped out, circling. Cole quickly scanned the area, looking for advantage. He saw a narrow ravine nearby, a trap. With no time to lose, Cole yelled, "Run!" Kari grabbed Luma and they sprinted toward the ravine's edge. Cole fired warning shots, keeping the hunters busy. The hunters gave chase, shouting threats. Cole ran after Kari but stopped short of the ravine. He waited for the hunters to approach. When they were close, Cole triggered, a small explosive he had set earlier. The ground trembled. Rocks and dust fell into the ravine. The hunters lost footing. One slipped and fell, disappearing into the deep crevice with a scream. The others stumbled back, cursing. Cole ran to Kari and Luma, grabbing their hands. This way. They dashed through thick bushes, heading toward a cluster of trees that hid a small cave. Inside, they collapsed, gasping for breath. Kari looked at Cole with grateful eyes. "You risked everything for us." Cole smiled tiredly. "I promised I wouldn't fail." Luma crawled to Cole, hugging his leg. Kari's voice was soft but sure. "You saved my family. You are more than human to me now." Cole's heart swelled with a new feeling. Hope. As the night deepened, they huddled together, safe for the first time in days. Tomorrow they would reach the relief zone, and their lives would change forever. The relief zone was just ahead, glowing faintly in the early morning light. It was surrounded by tall fences and guarded by humans in heavy armor. Large signs warned that no unauthorized aliens could enter without permission. Cole led Kari and Luma through the checkpoint. The guards stopped them immediately, weapons raised. "Stop right there," one guard ordered. "State your business." Cole stepped forward, raising his hand slowly. "We need help. They're refugees. They are not a threat." The guard looked at Kari and Luma with suspicion. "Aliens are not allowed inside without clearance." Kari felt her heart pound. She held Luma tightly. She could see fear and judgment in the guard's eyes. Cole turned to Kari. "Stay close. I'll talk to them." He spoke calmly. "They've been through a lot. The child is sick and weak. We just want medical aid and food." The guards exchanged glances. One stepped forward. "Orders say no aliens, no exceptions." Cole's voice grew firm. "Then I will not leave without them." The guard's hand hovered near his weapon. Cole took a deep breath. "If you won't help them, then I stand with them." The tension was thick. The guards hesitated. A senior officer arrived, tall and stern. She looked at Cole, then at Kari and Luma. "Are you the one responsible for these aliens?" she asked. "Yes," Cole replied. "They need help." The officer studied them carefully. Kari could feel her gaze piercing her. "Protocols are strict," the officer said. "But this child is clearly in distress. We will provide aid." She nodded to the guards. "Escort them inside." As they passed the checkpoint, Cole stayed close to Kari and Luma. Inside the relief zone, medical teams took Kari and her child for treatment. Cole waited outside a small clinic, pacing nervously. After some time, a doctor came out. "Kari and the child are stable," the doctor said. "They need rest and more treatment, but they will recover." Cole breathed a sigh of relief. Kari came out later, looking much better. She smiled weakly at Cole. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything." Cole smiled back. "You don't have to thank me. It was the right thing to do." Days passed. Kari and Luma grew stronger with food and care. Cole visited often, bringing small gifts and stories. One evening, as the sun set behind the high walls, Kari took Cole's hand. "I want you to stay," she said. Cole looked surprised. "I don't want to be alone anymore," Kari explained. "You saved my life. You saved my child. You're family now." Cole's heart raced. He never expected this. He smiled gently. "I'll stay. For you and Luma." The relief zone was no longer just a shelter. It was home. And in a universe that often showed cruelty and fear, a starving alien mother's last bite had led to a human's greatest act of kindness and love.